All right, what is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another day of SaberSim's DFS office hours. Today is Saturday, January 17th of 2026. Looking ahead here, we have a ton of DFS action coming at you all weekend long. We have NFL, we have EPL soccer, we have COD, we have NHL, we have tennis, we have NBA, and we have golf. That is 7 different sports coming at you this weekend. If you guys aren't signed up with SaberSim, we do have a trial that is $7 for 7 days. So $7, 7 days to go along with 7 sports happening this weekend. All right. For those of you who are new here, welcome. My name is Andrew. I'm one of the coaches over here at SaberSim. This is a show where we go over how to use the SaberSim app, answer any and all DFS related questions. Get your questions in one of 3 ways here. First off, send us an email, support@sabersim.com. Second, post it live in the YouTube chat. Third way, post it in the office hours channel in our Discord server. If you're not in our Discord and want to get access to that channel, there is a link in the description of this video. You also get access to our similar channels, individual sport channels, and you get access to the rest of the SaberSim team. Just can't say enough good things about the Discord. But with that said, we do the show Monday through Friday, 4 p.m. Eastern. And then we do the show here on Saturdays at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. So tune in any one of those days to get your questions answered. All right. Appreciate you guys hanging out with me on a Saturday morning or afternoon, depending on where you live. Very busy Saturday, as I noted here. Probably the most important thing, or the thing people will be playing the most, is going to be the NFL divisional round games of the playoffs here. So they're running a 4-game main slate, 2 games Saturday, 2 games Sunday. They also have these slates split out if you want to play Saturday only. And then I guess they have a late Saturday to Sunday as well. And then they have a Sunday only to go along with all the showdowns. So no shortage of ways to get in on the NFL action this weekend. We will probably talk some NFL here shortly. There was one question that came into the app that I want to talk about. All right. Question is, can SaberSim be useful at all for best ball? So you got to think about, so like, how does best ball work, right? Best ball is a snake draft kind of format, right? So if you are playing a snake draft format, well, usually you have some type of rankings, right? What are your rankings? That is where SaberSim can be useful. I've talked to people who literally use SaberSim projections as their rankings for best ball drafts. Like, I know people who play NBA like every single day. They are drafting throughout the day, and they are using the SaberSim projections as their rankings. So yes, it can be useful depending on how you use it. I've had people ask about like kind of playoff best ball for NFL. I think that's going to be a little bit harder to use SaberSim because we're not so much projecting or like predicting someone's chance of like going on, right? So I think daily stuff SaberSim can be useful for. If the draft is for something spread out over time, I think SaberSim would be less useful. So I could see it being useful for like daily basketball. Don't see it being as useful for like playoff NFL drafting or something like that. So I know that was something they were doing. I don't know if they're doing it anymore since the playoffs have started, but just some ideas on what I know as far as using SaberSim for best ball. All right, that was our only question to get started. So we will jump into a slate demo here, and then we will see if there are any more questions when we are finished. All right, so 4-game slate. I'm going to leave minimax salary alone. I'm going to leave filters and rules on. You know, a 4-game slate, right? I think this approaches a point where you can probably set some rules that are a little more mainstream. Like, I wouldn't be opposed to using a don't use players against opposing defense rule on a 4-game slate. I think that's okay. You know, I think there are enough games on this slate to not be concerned. I also don't think you need to worry about duplication here. You know, I play a lot of afternoon only type of slates, like during the NFL regular season, duplication is never that much of a factor. I think duplication's like way bigger factor on like 2 gamers. Starts to kind of fizzle out. 3 is kind of like a middle point. 4 and bigger, I don't think you need to worry about it as much. So I'm not super concerned about duplication across the 4-game slate here. I have this one rule on. Not going to set anything else and just going to roll with what SaberSim wants to do as far as like sliders and everything from here. But 2 quick adjustments to the ownerships here will unlock my build lineups button. I'm just going to build 500 lineups for the sake of time. And I am going to send this build off. All right. We are rocking and we are rolling. And I'll move a couple things around while we wait. Looks good enough. All right, this is a good one as we get into the post build here. Question says, if you really like certain players, what's the min exposure % number you like to put on them? What works for you? Very good question. So the way I think about this is if there are certain players that I like, then no matter what, I don't want the field. I don't want to lose to a player that I like, right? So in DFS, the most neutral thing you can do is play a player at their ownership. When someone is 30% owned and they are in 30% of your lineups, that is neutral, because when that player does good, the same ratio of lineups that get closer to winning is the same as the number of lineups that player is in, right? Like, hey, 30% of the field has this player. He's doing really good. I also have 30%. So it's the same ratio, right? Leverage is in terms of having more than what the field has or having less than what the field has, right? So for me, if I like a player, I basically never want the field to have more than I do. So at a minimum, I think you can match their ownership, right? So let's say I really like who's somebody I could like. Jake Tonjes, right? And I'll scroll up a little bit here. I really like Tonjes today. Kittle is out. He's a very low salary. I think he's going to be involved. Or actually, let's pick a player that SaberSim is under on. Let's change this up. So I'm scrolling here, right? I noticed that we have negative leverage on Christian McCaffrey, right? We can see his ownership is 45% and our exposure is 25%. Well, I think McCaffrey is a really good player. I understand SaberSim wants to fade him a little bit. Could be salary related, could be matchup related. I don't really know why, but I don't want to lose to McCaffrey. So what I would do is I would set his minimum basically equal to his ownership. And my thinking behind doing this is that, you're going to usually need to take a stand somewhere. You're going to need leverage somewhere on the slate. What I'm deciding is that, hey, I do not want to take my leverage stand on Christian McCaffrey. I can take it somewhere else, but this is not the player that I want to take it on. So I'm just going to match. My leverage is going to be 0 here if he comes in 45% owned as expected. And let's find another spot on the slate or spots to get different. But let's not get different here, right? Like that is okay. SaberSim is like, hey, I want to be under. You're like, I don't really want to be under. Let's rethink this. There's always kind of more than one path to victory. You don't have to just go left, right? We can go up and we can go around. That's okay too. Like it's just like simple example. So that's how I would think about it. Always be mindful of the player's ownership percentage when setting your minimum exposures. Because it can vary, right? If I set 45% minimum exposure to McCaffrey, well, setting 45% exposure to Jaden Higgins, way different, right? Higgins here is 8% owned. Okay. If I really like this player, maybe I only need to set 15% and be 2 times the field. Maybe 25% is actually a lot, right? 25% is a lot for Higgins. 25% is not a lot for McCaffrey. I appreciate the nice comment here. Thank you. Thank you. But either way, good question. While we jump into a slate demo, let's keep it rolling. So we're in the post build here. We built 500 lineups. We're looking at a group of 20. So we're playing the $3.20 max, right? We are building our 20 lineups for that contest. You can either view the lineups in like the row format, or if you like to like actually see the lineups a little bit bigger, you can turn off use compact lineup view, right? And kind of see the lineups a little more traditionally with the all the players here. If this is what you should like, it's all preference. And then just so you guys know, you can also drag the lineup section out and it'll show more than one lineup. It'll show up to 3 lineups at a time, making it a little bit easier to kind of scroll here and analyze those lineups. So just some things to be aware of. All right. So far, so good. Now, this is an important one. I know that people like to kind of look through the individual positions, you know, kind of looking at them like this. I would highly, highly recommend for running backs, receivers, and tight ends, because they are flex eligible, to look at them in the All tab, go to the position column, I am seeing total exposure for these players across all positions they are eligible for. If I only go to running backs, this is in the 2 running back slots. This does not account for players in my flex, right? So the exposures can be a little bit different when you do that. And then also, if you set any min or max exposures, say I don't really want to play that much RJ Harvey. If I go to the running back and I set a max exposure for him, the builder can, unfortunately, opposed to what you're trying to do, can kind of circumvent you. It's like, okay, we won't play Harvey in the running back. Instead, we'll play him in the flex. And then you end up with like the same amount of exposure, which is probably not what you wanted. So just keep these things in mind as you use SaberSim, but just trying to give you guys some helpful tips, tricks, and ideas. All right, so keeping it going. 3 big things I want to analyze right now. I'm actually going to turn off this McCaffrey exposure. Click apply. Now, we kind of talked about this, right? But your leverages are very important, and I think your overall exposures. Those are probably 3 things you want to look at. So like me, I get into the post build. I want to look at exposure, high to low. I want to look at leverage, high to low. And then I want to look at leverage, low to high. So the leverage, low to high are the players we're taking a stand against, right? Hey, we have 0% Courtland Sutton. We have 0% James Cook. We are under on Christian McCaffrey. You know, we have no Bo Nix. We have no Josh Allen. Am I okay with these things, right? It is very important to be okay with the players you are not playing as well as the players that you are playing, right? So, you know, maybe like, hey, I don't want to be this far under on Josh Allen. Well, maybe I meet the builder halfway. You know, maybe I do like a 10% minimum where I'm still under on him slightly, but I'm not so far under on him, right? We are managing our risk in the negative direction as well as the positive. So managing the negative leverage here, just as important. And then if I click apply, that 10% Allen goes through. He's no longer on our top negative leverages. And then I can go scroll down. And here he is, 10% in my lineups now. So just some thoughts there. All right, next question. Under the lineup tab, what's the difference between Saber Score and live projected lineups? So we're talking about the rank by options here. We have a lot of rank by options. Live projection is something that is calculated when the slate is in progress. So it's not something so much for basically live projection pre-slate is the same as projected score. As the games play out, we take into account what is actually happening and we update the projections. So first quarter, James Cook scores a touchdown. That's going to impact his expected projection for the rest of the game. You know, what if he hits his 15-point projection by halftime? What is his new projection? While that is happening, we update mid-game. So that can be really useful for late swap and knowing, you know, how well your lineups are doing. If he's having a really good game, he hit his projection by halftime, we're going to update it and say, okay, well, for the rest of the game, we think his new projection is actually this. That can be useful when you go to late swap. That's not so important in the playoffs. It is more important in the regular season where maybe not all the games have finished by the time the second set of games are starting. In the playoffs, they kind of space these out to where one game is usually finished by the time the next game is starting. But I think it's a good clarification point that we are taking these things into account. We are calculating actual score and updating projections based on how the game is playing up to that point in time. And then Saber Score is one of our in-house metrics that we created. We have a really good tutorial on it. It is called How Saber Score Works. I would highly recommend checking this out. So I'm going to drop a link to it here in the YouTube chat. And you can also find some other good videos in our support library. But Saber Score, we think as far as like rankings go, I would say the contest sims and ROI are the best, and then Saber Score, and then projected score. We would definitely rank Saber Score ahead of projection. All right. So far, so good. So, pretty good so far. You know, I'm pretty comfortable with the leverages and exposures that we've looked at. We made a couple adjustments or kind of hypothetical adjustments. We talked about making adjustments to McCaffrey, to Allen, to kind of verifying all of these things. So really good stuff there. Next question. If I want to see the metrics on a specific lineup, but I am unable to find it in the build, is there a way to quickly search for it? So let's say that I wanted to see, well, a couple things here. I'm going to remove the question. So there's a couple different ways to see metrics of a lineup. Number one is there are some basic metrics in the lineup card. So like we see the projection down here. We see the ownership. We see what kind of stack it is. You can add metrics with this gear icon and select some. So here we're showing the Saber Score. Now, if you are in the row format, you drag this out. There are more metrics visible here that you can look at. And you can also use this bar to kind of go back and forth. You can add metrics by right-clicking on these column headers, clicking Edit Columns, and then you can scroll and add or remove whatever you want, right? Maybe I don't really care to look at the percentiles. Okay, I get rid of those. It kind of brings everything a little bit tighter here, all within kind of one view. So you have the ability to kind of customize this in both the compact view, we call it, or the expanded view. So I think that is the main thing that you're going to want to figure out is what metrics am I looking for, and then go about adding them to each individual lineup. All right. Well, I think that was our last question here. Pretty sure we are all set. Appreciate you guys tuning in. Good luck if you're playing some DFS today, and I will see you all on Monday. So until then, everybody, take care. Thanks. Bye.